Dialogue. That's it. No, dialogue is important in writing. There is narrative and then there is dialogue. You need both of them to sort of get your narrative out and allow the story to move through the plot. And effective dialogue does more than just convey information, does more than just going blah, blah, blah. It reveals character, it adds depth to your narrative, and it drives the scene forward. So, we're going to talk about how powerful dialogue can be and examples of where it looks like it's not necessarily working. We're going to use some of the yada, yada, yada dialogue that you've probably seen, but then we're going to do a real time example and change it into something a little bit more dynamic. And that is why today, writing dynamic dialogue to elevate your scenes. And of course, before we go into that, I'm going to go over uh, 10 quick things that you should think about when working on your dialogue. So let's start with dialogue should have purpose. Every line, every single line, whether narrative or dialogue, should serve a purpose. And it should, in turn, have one or more of these three elements. It could have one or more of these three elements: plot, character, or world building. It should always, at some point, either be pushing the plot forward, developing the character, or building your world. It doesn't have to have all of them at the same time. However, if you watch a lot of my videos, especially the where I break down the prose videos, you'll notice that successful books, they accomplish this. Every line is either plot, character, or world building, or it's a mixture of two or three of those. Okay. Now, the reason is because when you're writing, lines need to be more than just conversational when it comes to dialogue. It has to feel conversational, but you have a word count. Word counts are essential to your book, depending on if you want to go traditionally published or if you want to self publish. However, you also have to think of the book, and your word budget helps you kind of clean it up. You want to concise, straight to the point sometimes. You do want to meander when it feels right for the narrative, like if it serves a narrative purpose. But if you allow every line to have a purpose, it will create consistent momentum and it'll drive your narrative forward. All right. To reveal character through dialogue. So we just talked about plot, character development, and world building. So character, what this does is one of the best ways you can reveal characters by what they say or don't say, or how they say what is on their mind. Because remember, just like what a narrative shows the audience, like what they are seeing, is an indication of what the character is noticing. It is character development. If you describe something through the POV of a character and they notice, say, the red car, whereas I might notice people walking, that is character development in a sense. Dialogue does the same thing. What they are choosing to say to move the plot forward or develop character or build on the world is going to show the reader who they are. Their snippy, snidey comments is a form of character, but the information in which they present in that snidey, snappy, snarky behavior is more valuable than the fact that they are snarky. All right, because it's how their brain is working and it's what they're willing to reveal or not reveal. It's what they may not control to reveal, meaning they might slip up. And there's a reason for that. That reveals character. Okay. Subtext and hitting meaning. We talk about this a lot when it comes to dialogue on this channel. Subtext, if you don't know by now, is basically what's said underneath it's what's revealed through the unsaid ultimately. All right. So real people like us, you and I, we don't necessarily talk directly to one another. We don't just say what's a I mean, there are instances. The probability element is going to always say that everything is possible. Quantum physics and all. But if you are mad at someone, okay, it's very rare that the conversation go, I am mad at you, and this is the reason I am mad at you. It usually takes a little bit before they're like, well, why are you acting this way? Like, what's going on? Nothing. There's nothing to talk about. Don't worry. Everything's fine. and eventually to get to, well, I'm pissed off at you. You betrayed me or whatever. But we don't always talk in specifics. So allow subtext and hidden meaning to be filtered through the discussions. Even when you're being straightforward, there still could be hidden meaning under that straightforwardness. Saying as if you would ever know, right? That is straightforward, as if you would ever know. I'm questioning your ability, but it's not straightforward in a sense where there's subtext. Okay, because a character might be fine, but between their body language, which is a part of communication, it's their words that they are choosing to say that will also help build on that subtext and hidden meaning. Again, we've talked about this as well, keeping it natural but not too realistic. Uh, as you can see, I flutter a little bit. The way I talk naturally. Sometimes I double up words. Maybe I'll mess up a word while I'm reading because I have dyslexia. So as I'm reading my scripts that I worked on, I might I'll repeat, maybe if I'm saying effective, I'll say effective and I'll be like, no, effective. And then I'll go on like a little weaving tangent of maybe like making a little song happen, like whether it's revealing character, right? Okay. That can be in your dialogue if you want. The only difference between what is realistic and what is natural, okay, is in real life, we can't always get to the point. Sometimes we get lost, so we get sidetracked, we get stuck in a side. I'd be telling you the story, as George Carlin says. He's like, "Oh, she was 10. She was 10, and back then, as oh no, she was 12. She was 12, and when I was hanging out with her, we were walking around the city, and 16. We were 16, right?" That dialogue is technically realistic because it is potentially a conversation. But when they say realistic, it means that it flows naturally through the elements that we're talking about. There's subtext. Things aren't always being said as they are. However, um, the keep it natural and not too realistic means that every line must either move the plot forward, add character development, or build on the world. However, it could have more than one or three of those things within a line. But if you notice, it's purpose. A line must be purposeful because you have a word budget. In real life, we don't have a word budget. We can go off on tangents, we can sidestep. But in reality, we don't have a ticking time bomb going. We don't have a warlord coming. We don't have whatever the case may be. We're not on a submarine, and we don't have time restraints. We don't, and that time restraint is a 90-minute movie or an 81,000 word novel. So you have to allow every line to have a purpose, but maintain that natural feel to it, but don't make it too realistic. You don't have to add all the realistic quirks that happen in real life. Especially if you listen to a conversation, you're like, oh, well, this is identical to the conversation that my friends and I had. We started talking about video games, even though we were working on a funeral. We were laying out a funeral, but, we just went into video game conversation. And the thing is, like, you could do that, but you are eating up your word count. All right. Conflict drives situations. Tension drives situations. Stakes drive situations. And therefore, the scene is moved through conflict. A scene can become very boring and and lulled when it's just like, even if it's something like this. Oh, dad died. We have to set up the arrangements. Okay, do you have that? Yeah, I have that. I can handle it. All right, so you're going to take care of the arrangements? Yeah. Is there anything you could do? Yeah, absolutely. What do you need me to do? However, I can make sure the food is there. You know what? Actually, that's all I need you to do. Take care of the food. I'll take care of the arrangements. There's no conflict there. There's no tension. There's no stakes. And it's a story, right? You're writing a narrative, and a narrative is made up of both plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what, and story is how it unfolds through the emotional experiences and choices that a character makes. So in those situations, you have to allow choices and emotional experiences to happen. But if there's no conflict, no pushback, no challenging, no tension, no stakes, then you can't see their emotional experience being performed. You can't see them making choices. So use conflict to create pushback and challenge so characters can reveal themselves. And you could do this through dialogue by allowing the dialogue to push back on each other and dialogue to challenge the situations, because you can literally have them saying things and challenging situations. All right. More importantly, every character has a different goal. They have different motivations. They have different positions. Okay. They have different desires, etc., etc. And all these things can conflict. Conflict doesn't necessarily mean negative, though. Like, I don't need to hate you. We can love each other and still have a conflict. What movie are we going to go to see? And then having a debate about that is conflict because we're not agreeing. All right. But disagreeing, by the way, is not bad. Like, that's not negative. Disagreeing and then coming to a solution, that is healthy communication. It's like I talk about, I like having healthy communication in my novels, but that doesn't mean people don't disagree. That doesn't mean people don't argue. That doesn't mean that people don't, you know, it's just that they do communicate their emotions, and it's not like, I don't, people can manipulate, like, there are characters that manipulate, but I like to vary it up, but I also like to showcase healthy relationships. Break up dialogue with actions and emotions. Dialogue itself is not something that lives in the ether or the vacuum of life. Dialogue moves in conjunction with action and emotion. Adding these action beats or the emotional beats, or allowing things to kind of breathe, slowing the pace down a little bit, gives weight and structure to your dialogue that comes to life through the character's behavior. So, a character could be pacing the room. They could be fiddling with an object or glancing at the clock, like they're one, like, what's got to get going, right? These layers add to the conversation, and they also showcase who the character is on a deeper level, allowing the dialogue to have a little bit more substance to it. Because if a character says something as simple as, look, whatever you need, I'm okay with it. Just do what you got to do. Looks at watch, looks at clock, looks out the door. That means the character is actually not present, or they're present enough to answer the question, but they're not. That's not really what's on their mind. Yeah, you do. So now them showing compliance to the request of, yeah, whatever it is you need to do, just do it, right, is actually just trying to get through the conversation so they can get to where they got to go, because there's something else happening, which creates conflict. But it also showcases behavior. You also want to avoid overusing dialogue tags. I know I'm kind of rushing through this, but I want to get to the example where we get to kind of see these things kind of unfold. And I've talked about this stuff a lot in my videos. He said, she said, he said, she said, Chris said, Sarah said, Michael said, they responded. He ejaculated. That happened once in a novel where somebody said dialogue, said, it's very stupid. She exclaimed. Allow dialogue to be purposeful in the sense that it directs the reader in clarifying who is speaking, because something, there's an arrangement of characters and somebody interrupts the flow. Now, obviously, if I go, whatever, I just found out that the general can't do what they said. Thomas said, well, when are you going to figure out when it's done? I don't need to know who said, unless, of course, it's important that we know who the character is, right? But, well, when are you going to know when it's done? And now Thomas could speak because we're in a natural back and forth pattern, right? But you can use action and emotional beats and narrative to kind of break it up. Because, however, it is true, said is not dead. Said is a very powerful, like, it's just he said, she said, it just vanishes, but it keeps the rhythm and it creates a pacing, especially if you want to break up a long dialogue thing. Like, instead of saying, I've been here for 400 days and I'm still unsure of where to go, but at least I'll find her soon. But you could be like, I've been here for 400 years, he said. It's been forever since I found it, but at least I know I'm fine. Right? It creates that little sort of pause and beat. So sometimes they're useful, but allow dialogue tags to have a purpose and not just to be there, because then they become very visible. Unnecessary words. This goes back to our word count. All right. Dialogue should be concise, but that doesn't mean it needs to be short and simple. It just needs to get to the point. But stylized dialogue in the voice of characters can get to the point. Um, but the thing is, when you're writing a first draft or a second draft, just let it out. Even if you're writing your zero draft, just let the words out. Don't worry about word count. Don't worry about cleaning things. Just don't edit. Just get it out. Get your story out. Get the narrative on the page. When you're done and you're editing, your job is to think about your word count. What is your word count goal? Especially if you're trying to traditionally publish or get an agent or whatever the case may be. If you're trying to write to market, there is this, which I have a folder, by the way. It's free in the folder. It shows you what the genre word count gauge is. It shows you the minimums, the maximums. It shows you what the average is. It shows you what's expected, etc. But once you understand that, then you could start saying to yourself, well, where can I cut and why can I cut? And that's a very simple solution. Does it serve the narrative? Does it accomplish plot, character, or world building, or any variation of those? Right? Does it move through the character's POV? Does it challenge people? Does it have purpose? And as long as it does, then it's good. But that doesn't mean every word in that sentence, because there's sometimes uh like like a like a strong adjective or a strong verb or a strong, like, there's a better way to say they walk through the door quickly, like he sprinted through the door. Like, I just saved my word count, you know as a very simple example. Silence for impact, hesitation, uncertainty, reflection. All these things, what they say and what they don't say, is just as powerful, just as useful, just as poignant. But purposeful silence will drive your narrative. Purposeful silence will develop your characters. Purposeful silence creates tension, conflict, stakes. Silence is a tool. All right. And of course, practice listening. What? Practice listening. When I was younger, all right, and I was working on figuring out how to get people to sound normal, I started in comic books, by the way, so it wasn't as, it's mostly like, I shall stop you, and I was young. But there was a certain point where I started paying attention to people and I started studying people and I started like, and I got into psychology and uh my job is I wanted to understand behavior because I knew I wanted to tell stories and I wanted to be able to understand emotion and threads and all these things that are important. So, it led me to developing a thing called tact, the art of conversation. It allows me to understand uh, social behaviors and things like that. Right. So I started listening. And one of the things that I did while I did this is I'd ask friends if I could record us audio speaking. And they'd be like, why? And I was like, well, I want to understand like what I sound like and what other people sound like and like what the conversation feels like. And they're like, why? And then I obviously, well, dialogue. you know, I want to be a writer. I want to be a screenwriter. I want to be an author. I want to, I want to understand dialogue because it was important to me, And a lot of my friends were great and we would do that. Then you get to listen back to it. But if you don't have that opportunity, just listen to people speak. You don't even have to be a part of the conversation. Just kind of, if they're your friends and you're hanging out with them and you're just watching a group of friends talk, just listen. What is their patterns? What is their style? Right. But you don't want to emulate that identically. You don't want to, because then that becomes too realistic. But you want to take the flow and the way, how people express themselves. Pay attention to their body language and stuff like that. It's like when acting, one of the things I always, actors, bad actors will act like this. You know, I don't have time for this. Or they'll be like, you know, Or if somebody's talking to them, they're supposed to react. They just mhm, mhm, right. Like, you know, have a drink, right? Right, very natural. But when you tell an actor, "Okay, drink the soda," they go, and they're performing. So it's the same thing with writing when it comes to dialogue and behavior. There's a difference between writing what uh visually might be there versus what's emotionally there, you know? So, all right, editing, bad example. All right, okay, all right, okay, all right. Let's share the screen. We've got to share the screen. All right, that's set up. Let's do this. Share the screen. Boop, boop. All right. Okay. Let's just read through it real quick. Hey, how are you? He asked. I'm fine. How about you? Sarah responded. I'm good. Just busy with work, you know. Yeah, same here. It's been a long week, Chris said. Yeah, totally, Sarah said. So, did you hear about the thing? Chris asked. Yeah, I heard. Crazy, right? Sarah asked in return. Yeah, definitely, Chris said. All right. Does this dialogue have purpose? I'm going to say no. Does it reveal character through dialogue? No, because it doesn't have personality choices. It just sort of is. It sounds like one voice sort of going through it. So if we took it all out, I'd be like, hey, how are you? I'm fine. How about you? I'm good. Just busy with work, you know. Yeah, same here. It's been a long week. Yeah, totally. So did you hear about the thing? Yeah, I heard. Crazy, right? Yeah, definitely. There's no movement to that dialogue. There's no variations. There's a lot of the same words. Yeah, 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 etc., etc. There subtext and hidden meaning. Let's see. I'm fine. How about you? I'm good. Just busy with work. Yeah, same here. It's been a long week. And did you hear about that thing? Huh? That's the pronoun game. By the way, pronoun game bad, bad writing. But you could do it. No judgment. There is no judgment. It's just you know who's in town. Right? You remember the reader doesn't know who's in town. So if you go, Jacob just arrived, that's better than you go, do you know who's in town? Like they already don't know. You don't need to play the pronoun game. We already know. Anyway, there's no conflict driving this scene for sure. It is not natural. And it actually almost feels realistic because hey, how are you? I'm fine. How about you? I'm good. Just busy. It's like the screenplay, the script when you go to a grocery store, you go up to the counter, like, hey, how are you today? Oh, I'm great. How are you? Everything's fine. Thanks. And then it's just quiet. All right. Break up dialogue with action. We didn't do that. Avoid overusing dialogue tags. I would say we use just the right amount of dialogue tags for it to be quite noticeable. Thomas said. Cut unnecessary words. All right. Cut unnecessary words. Effective. Oh wait. Boop, ba-doop, ba-doop, boop, boop. Okay. Use silence for impact. I don't need sometimes. Yeah. All right. Practice listening. What? All right. Well, we don't have to do that other than reading it out loud. So practice listening. Also, read out loud. Yeah. Read out loud. Is that loud? One word or two words? I think it's two words, isn't it? Maybe it's two words. I think it's. I don't know. I can't spell. Spelling is without me. I can't spell. Oh, it's out loud. Yeah. Out loud. Uh, all right. It's out loud. Okay. All right. Remember, all great writers have great editors. All right. So let's do it. Dialogue should have a purpose. I don't know what it is they're trying to do. There's only one thing. Did you hear about the thing? All right. A lot of this is unnecessary. Uh, Did he hear about that thing? Ooh. All right. Well, what is the thing? Let's say the thing is their best friend got into a car accident and is in the hospital. And Sarah was on her way to see her mom, who she's not seen in 5 years because she was in France. All right, right away, there's already a conflict. Okay. Oh, that might be an issue. Let me put that over here. That might be better. Okay. All right. Okay. Reveal character through. We'll do that in a second. Subtext. Oh wait, I guess I don't have to do that. Subtext is Sarah doesn't really like Dave, and she rather see her mama. All right. Okay. Keep it natural. We'll get to that. Use conflict. We already have the conflict is going to drive this scene. All right. We'll add that. Overuse dialogues. As you will see, I will probably only use a couple. Cut unnecessary words. As an example, this would all be cut instantly. If I was an editor, I would have been like, I just saved you 35 words. get rid of this. We just get into the middle of the right. They say start in the middle, and all that means is what is interesting. Where's the meaty stuff? Where's the purpose? Right. The purpose isn't that they enter a room. All right. Use silence. All right. Okay. Let's do it. All right. Okay. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Chris hung up his phone, lowering it. The slow, unsure gate, lowering it. The slow release, something deeper. His face, cold, staring, beyond Sarah, across, beyond Sarah, across. All right. What happened? Sarah lowered her drink. What happened? What happened? Dave. Hospital. All right. Dave, he's in the hospital. And then now we can kind of go back and forth to that, right? So he's in the hospital. Okay. All right. Okay. He's in the hospital. Okay. Sarah lowered a drink. What happened? Dave, he's in the hospital. Sarah checked her phone. The time. Time. Sarah checked her phone. 3:00. Link back at her. at her. Okay. Sarah checked the phone. Oh, check for the time. 3:00. Or Sarah checked the phone for the time. It was 3:00. All right. Do, 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 do. Can you take me? Can you take me to see him? All right. Fine. All right. Can you take me to see him? All right. Now you could do like stuttered through his words. Oh, folding into no. Leaning forward to the table. His body limp. All right. So, how are we doing with spelling? Oh, yeah, limped. I don't know if that's accurate, but his body limped. Oh, his body fell limp. Okay. You know, my mom's in town. Mom's in town. All right. Okay. I can't. You know, mom's in town. Town. All right. You do this. I have to go see her. Right? Okay. He looked up at her as if coming from his own empty room, awakening to her entering. Okay. He looked up at her as if she entered his room. No. As if she. As if coming from his own empty room, awakening to her entering. Or I should say, he looked up at her as if he was awakening. All right. Dead sleep filled with a nightmare. Dead sleep filled with a nightmare. No. All right. Oh, wait. I think it'd be better to do this. Mom? All right. So, Dave could be done. All right. He shook his head, checking his phone, moving his plate away from him. No. You have to take me. All right. So, let's just call this the thing, and then let's look through. Okay. Dialogue should have a purpose. So the purpose is that we are informing that we're right into it. Dave was in an accident, or more importantly, he's in the hospital. Sarah's mom arrived. So we already within wait. Okay. Within 89 words, we already know the situation. We know that Dave is in the hospital and Sarah's mom is home. We also know that she has to pick him up, and we know that Chris wants to get to the hospital. Now, we also, in the first 132, we created the conflict. So in 132 words, we created the conflict. I can't. My mom's in town. I have to go to see her, right? Mom, he looked at her as if he was awakening from a dead sleep filled with a nightmare. Okay, Dave could be dying. He shook his head, checking his phone, moving his plate away from him. No, wait, you have to take me. So now we already have the conflict. We have their motivations. We have the setup in the series. Okay, this is character and plot. If you're wondering, remember every line has to be plot, character, or world building, or a variation of that. Wait. His face cold, staring beyond Sarah, who sat across from him. This is also character and plot, and the reason is because actually this is more character. What happened? This is plot because it's moving the plot forward. We're trying to be informed to discover the plot. Dave, he's in the hospital. So this is both plot and character, okay? Because it has the character Dave. He's in the hospital. It's showing that he's emotionally affected by it, okay, and that they have a relationship. He knows Dave in a way that this moment is devastating to him. Dave is Chris is in the hospital, so that's plot. We also have a potential world building because now we're establishing that this where they are in this narrative world has hospitals. All right. Checking her phone, she looked up. The time was 3:00. Is he all right? This is character and plot because we're establishing the time, which may end up becoming important. If it's not, then I would probably go back and take that out. But I in my mind, 3:00 to me narratively was Sarah reminding herself that her mom is going to be in town, and that she actually is more concerned about her mom than hearing that Dave is in the hospital, because remember, she doesn't really like Dave. Okay, so she's just, and it's casual, checking her phone. She looked up from the time. It was 3:00. Is he all right? Like, she's not emotionally hit by it yet. So this character there. Can you take me? All right. Can you take me to see him? He stuttered through his words, leaning forward on the table. This is character and plot because it's moving the plot forward. Can you take me? And it creates the conflict. His body fell limp. Technically, this is plot because it's showing how the emotions are moving through him, but it is more importantly just character, right? I can't. Ooh. This becomes plot and, of course, character. My mom's in town. I have to go see her. And okay. So this becomes all right. That becomes plot. My mom's in town. That's plot. I have to go see her. That's also plot. It has a touch of character because the way she's responding to it. She's hiding something. There's a subtext to it. She doesn't actually want to go see Dave, but she wants to go see her mom, right? But maybe she does like Chris, so she doesn't want to be offensive. Mom, he looked up. Mom? All right. This is character because he's actually stunned, right? And we confirm that, we qualify that with he looked up at her as if he was a nightmare. So this is all character. This is character. And then Dave could be dying. Dave could be dying. Ooh. What do you think that is? What do you think that is? 3, 2, 1. Dave could be dying. That is plot, but it is also character because he has a concern. It's a position. It's a choice. All right. He shook his head, checking his phone, all this other stuff. This is all character. As you can see, behavior is always character. Anything that showcases who somebody is becomes character. All right. That's character development. If we learn something about them, that's character development. So their behavior allows us to learn something about them. If whatever. No, wait. So you might be like, well, these are one lines. Well, no. Okay. No. Right. No. She right. I have to go see her. No is in direct reference to the mom thing. So that is character because he's like, no, this is like it's his positions being challenged, right? We talk about positions, it's what people believe or what they hold dear, or whatever the case. I like the Giants as a position, but so's like whatever your faith is, right? Like what you believe is your position. Okay. He's saying no. So he's challenging her position because his position he feels is greater, which is we got to go see a friend who just got into a car accident. Wait becomes more character because now he's like, wait a minute, are you saying, right? The subtext is, are you saying you're not going to take me to see my friend? Like he's in the car accident. Like your mom can wait. She's alive. And then he's like, you have to take me. Like it's shock. So these are 3 character beats. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So there you go. And by the way, as you can see, the sentence lengths are all changed up to create a rhythm. Okay, but let's see. So we definitely reveal character through dialogue. Dave, he's in the hospital. Is he all right? She's very casual about that. That's character. Okay. Can you take me to see him? It's his first thing he wants to do. He's just, that's it. And then she's like, I can. My mom's already. So that's also we are learning about who these characters are through their dialogue because their concerns, their positions are being presented. The subtext is definitely there. She's too casual and too concerned with not go. Like, how do I not go see Dave? And Chris is clearly like, he's not saying like, no, wait, you have to take. No, like, what are you talking about? And then wait, you want to go see your mom? Like, Dave is in the hospital. Like, that's the subtext. That's how powerful a word can be. Okay, that's how we create subtext because you, as the writer, have to understand. Oh wait, let me do this. You, as the writer, need to understand what is pulling them through the situation for the dialogue to have that strength, that power. So understanding why I'm using the word no, wait, and then you have to take me, and why that rhythm, because no is like, no, you have to take me. Wait, you don't want it? Like you were your mom's alive, like you have, and then you have to take me. So you have to think like that, right? You have to think deeper, even if you're just writing it. Now, if my brain is working at the speed of which, like, that's how I felt this rhythm, right? And like I'm having the conversation with her, and then when Sarah's speaking, I'm Sarah speaking to Chris. So I'm living through that moment. And I'm like, what are the emotions? How would this feel through them, right? Okay, and he's in like a daze right now. He's just like my best friend is in a car accident. But after I wrote it, do you see how like I'm analyzing it? It's important to analyze what you wrote to make sure that it all does indeed have purpose. Which brings us to keep it natural but not realistic. So the natural element is the way it's moving through the action, their behaviors, but it is not too realistic where you know I have them talking about a movie they saw on Thursday night. Last week I saw Gladiator 2 and it was really good. Chris's phone rings. He picks it up. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, and I really think you should see it. Denzel Washington's in it. Uh-huh. What do you mean? Wait, what? Uh-huh. Right? Like all that is too realistic and it slows it down. It's not like it's better to just start from the phone because let's get into the meat and potatoes, right? Conflict is driving it. This is the beginning of the scene leading into the conflict, but the conflict would be the middle of the scene, and that would be where we fight back and forth. And Chris needs to convince Sarah to take him, or he's gonna have to take an Uber. Break up the dialogue with action. Sarah lowered her drink. What happened? Dave, he's in the hospital. Checking her phone, Sarah looked up from the time. It was 3 o'clock. Is he all right? Can you take me to see him? He stuttered through his words, leaning forward on the table. His body felt limp. Uh, all right. So there's definitely that. Avoid overusing dialogue tags. Let's see. I think that actually would be how that would be. He stuttered through his words, leaning forward on his arm. Actually, this technically would be he stuttered. He stuttered. Yeah. So that's one. It's one dialogue tag. All right, great. All right. Cut unnecessary words. Let's see. Chris hung up his phone, lowering it with a slow release of something deeper. Chris hung up his phone, lowering it. Lowering it. His face cold, staring beyond Sarah. Beyond his friend, Sarah. Actually, we don't need his friend. Beyond Sarah, who sat across. Beyond Sarah. Sat across. I think that's important. It's creating positioning, and she lowered her drink. What happened, Dave? He's in the hospital, checking her phone. Sarah checking her phone. She looked up from the time. Okay, that's important because that's movement. We're establishing the 3 o'clock time. Is he all right? Can you? He stuttered. He stuttered. I think that's leaning forward onto the table. Onto the table. The body fell limp. All right. I can't. You know, my mom's in town. I have to go see her. Look up at her. He looked up at her. He looked up at her. I don't think I need the comment. As if awakening from a dead sleep filled with a nightmare. Right. As he looked up at her as if awakening from a nightmare. Dave could be dying. He shook his head, checking his phone, moving his plate away from him. No, wait, you have to take me. All right, so there we go. We cleaned it up. So what was it, like 189 or something like that? Now it's 116. Wow. Oh, no. Yeah, 116. 116. I don't remember what it was. It was a lot, though. All right, I took some good words away. All right, what's next? Use silence for impact. Oh, well, so he hung up his phone, lowering it, his face cold, staring beyond Sarah, who sat across from him. I don't have to say he sat in silence. I don't have to say they sat in silence. I showed the silence. All right. She lowered her drink. This is still silent. And then finally, what happened? Checking her phone. This is sort of silence because she's not talking at that moment. He started leaning his weight on the table. His body felt limp. This would be an example of silence. So even though this is talking, now there's a beat of silence. Okay, so there we go. And then we just read it out loud. Chris hung up his phone, lowering it, his face cold, staring beyond Sarah, who sat across from him. Sarah lowered her drink. What happened? Dave, he's in the hospital. Checking her phone, Sarah looked up from the time. It was 3 o'clock. Is he all right? Can you take me to see him? He stuttered, leaning his weight on the table. His body fell limp. I can't. You know my mom's in town. I have to go see her. Mom? He looked up at her as if awakening from a nightmare. Dave could be dying. He shook his head, checking his phone, moving his plate away from him. No, wait. You have to take me. All right, so there you go. Boom. Boom. What is it? Boom. Boom. All right. Final thoughts. Final thoughts. Final thoughts. All right. Writing dialogue is about making sure that every line serves a purpose, whether it's moving the plot forward, revealing character, or building your world. Focus on the purpose. Okay. Dialogue. You want to use that subtext. You want to keep the conversations dynamic, allow conflict to ensue. Because remember, every book, every act, every chapter, Every scene has a beginning, a middle, and end. And that beginning is a setup to what's going on. The middle is a conflict or issue or problem. And then there's a resolution to it. So even in a chapter, you could have 3 or 4 scenes, but each of those scenes will need a beginning, a middle, and end. That dynamicness is that you are creating tension, conflicts, or stakes, but you need to set up those stakes, right? Writing dialogue is absolutely a craft, and it takes time to develop. And that's okay if your first attempts feel awkward or what you have been writing seems like you're not developing your own voice as a writer and you're trying to find that within dialogue. Don't be afraid to think outside the box to grow. You need to experiment and you need to push your characters to speak in ways that feel genuine and layered. You need to challenge what you write, especially if you're your first, second, maybe even your third draft. You can write straightforward context. You could write it surface level dialogue and then go back and be like, how do I turn this direct statements or these specific statements into more dynamic and like subtext and add a little bit more conflict? Is there conflict in the scene? Are they all agreeing? Are they just getting through the moment? Like, this is what you should be looking at once you're done writing and you do your work. Now, the process of learning to write dialogue will help you find your unique voice as a writer as long as you challenge yourself. When you're in situations, give yourself 3 different variations of something. Push back on your characters. See how they get out of those situations. Occasionally, just for fun, I'll have a scene that I'm working on and I'll just have a character do something really ridiculous. And then I'm like, let's see where it goes. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the thing is, like, it's not going to get published as soon as I finish writing the sentence or finishing the scene. Like, I can do work. Because ultimately, you got to remember, it's all made up. So just play with it. Being a writer is all about having an adult brain and getting to play in a child's mind. You know what I'm saying? It's imagination. It's being it's creating worlds and we are gods. But at the same time, like, sometimes we're writing about dragons, people writing dragons or elves, or sometimes we're writing romance, or it's the romance we've always wanted, or it's an embellishment of the romance we have. It's all made up. So just go back, have fun with the changes, allow yourself to fail so you can succeed. Other than that, next video in this series, pacing. We're going to explore how to control the pace of a scene to create a sense of urgency or to slow things down for emotional impact. Question. What do you find is the most challenging aspect of dialogue? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll share and communicate. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. And of course, as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.